Alright, hello everybody. My name is Jonathan Jimenez,
My name is Victor Boza.
and we're the presenters for this video. Product owner and mentor is Dr. Masood. So to begin with, once you first need to make a new file. This could be in a folder. So we'll get to where it'll end up exactly in a minute. So you're gonna create a new file. You're gonna have all these options. You'll click include and it's going to be in an MQH file. Then you're going to hit next. Here's where you specify where it's going. So you want to make sure that your signal is in the expert and signal. This my signals is a folder created by the maker of this article. In our case, it'll be effort. So hit next, and now this bit of code will be auto-generated. You don't need any of this, and you can feel free to erase that. And in this example, they include the expert signal library as well as do a declaration for C expert signal. So now what they do is they begin to give a description on this class. So the purpose, for example, is class of trading signal generator when price crosses moving average, etc. The next thing that they do is that they set up the parameters. And here, these methods are to set the values for the parameters. Uh, the difference between this block, and the previous one is that here they added a method to validate the settings. Here they show the implementation of this validation settings, and Victor will go over that later. Scrolling down, here they call objects used to access several classes such as the moving average, the one to access the open price and the close price. They also create object initialization methods here, as well as methods to access object data. And here is just the implementation of those methods. Alright, here's where they overwrite the existing methods for check open long and check open short, as well as adding the check trailing order long and check trailing order short. Down here is the implementation of those. And now the following, although they're in comments, this class description the wizard will parse these parameters, and then eventually once you're able to pick the signal, you'll be able to see those parameters right here as shown here. And now Victor will go over the code and
So these are the properties that you might want to set for your signal. These properties are gonna uh, give you the copyright and the link that you're gonna use set to show, and once you use the generator. This is the class that you have to include, which is the parent expert signal class, from where we are going to inherit our sample signal. In this case, is the inheritance over here. As Jonathan explained, you have to set up this wizard description exactly the way it is in here, so the wizard can catch it and display it. So make sure you add a title that is no longer than 2 lines, and make sure the type is signal advanced instead of just signal. You can name it the way you want. In the class, you have to put the class name that you're using. You don't have to specify anything for page. And for parameters, you have to make sure that you refer to the methods that you're using right here, which are the setters of your parameters that you declare. So these are gonna be the parameter that your protect attributes. You can set your own. In this case, they're gonna use open, close, and MA. You might want to have validation settings and any indicator. Calling the methods any MA, any open, and any close, which are defined down here. You may want to implement something like this. Just in your case, it might be different. You can take a look at the
logic and then see how they're implemented. Right here, they're doing something that I would not recommend doing, which is overriding check open long and check open short. The reason why I don't recommend doing this is because these methods are already implemented in the base class expert signal, and the way they're implemented, it's a way that I consider very appropriate. They are checking for the direction of the signal, and then they're comparing with the threshold. If the direction is greater than the threshold, then they issue a signal. So I would recommend using the original one. You can always override it, but have in mind that then you're not gonna have access to direction, because you might have access to direction, but you're not gonna implement the original check open short and check open long methods. Now, to understand how the check open short and check open long methods work, I suggest that we take a look at the expert signal class. So as I said, they're checking the direction. So what is the direction, you may ask? Then we're gonna find the direction method. It's right here. So that direction is a method that is gonna take the weight of the signal, and it's gonna multiply it by the difference between long condition and short condition. Now these two methods are the ones that you have to implement. They're not implemented, they need to be overridden or implemented. And then what this difference gonna give you is the significance of your signal. Now the significance is based on a parameter, a pattern, and one signal may have more than one patterns. The weight of the signal is gonna be specified right at the wizard, and the significance you specify it in your signal. So let's go to an example, signal MACD. We can see that they are using different patterns. In this case, they're using 6 patterns, and their default, this logic default values as pattern 0 computing has significance weight 10. You don't have to implement significance of 30 if you don't override check open short and check open short long. So that's one of the other reasons that I suggest you keep them the way it is, and you implement long condition and short condition instead. Let's take a look at how in signal MACD these methods are implemented. So this is long condition. What they're doing is that they are getting the strongest alive signal, and that's going to be the signal for long condition, for a prediction that the price will grow. So you're only going to take one for long condition and one for short condition. What you're going to do is that you're going to check if your pattern is a usage. A pattern is always a usage if its value is greater than 0. So we have 6 patterns, and we can call the method, or the macro is pattern usage in an index. In this case, let's check if pattern usage is pattern usage 0. It means that if the value of pattern 0 is greater than 0. This is pattern usage 1. It's asking whether the value of pattern number 1 is greater than 0. So we check this, and then depending on a logic that we might implement, like the one that they implemented in this case, we can keep one pattern. Keep in mind that the most important patterns should be at the end, because if you take a look at this pattern and if it is in usage, then your result is gonna be this pattern. But then you check the second one, and if the conditions are true, then you're gonna override that value. So you want to have the most important logic at the end. For short condition, it works exactly the same. You set up a logic, and then you ask if pattern is in usage, and you can add some ands or ors like this, and then some logic, right? And then you keep the most important pattern alive. Now let's see how to create a next advisor that uses the sample signal that we generated. First of all, the first thing we have to do once we finish this is that we have to compile it. If it doesn't give us any error, we have to reset the meta editor before we actually go and click new. So let's say we close the meta editor and we open it again, then we can click new. Once we are in here, we want to select expert advisor generate, then we click next. We have to make sure we don't change the path. It's gonna be under experts, and then we can say my expert sample, for example. We can specify an author and a link, and this is gonna be the symbol. It's gonna be the currencies that we're gonna trade. I recommend using current, which means that you're gonna use the currencies from the chart you attach this expert advisor to. Time frame, it's gonna be the time frame that you are gonna use it. I recommend using current, because otherwise it's only gonna work for the values that you select. If you double click a symbol, it turns gray, and that means that this value is gonna be a constant, so you can't change it. You might always want to have it in colors so you can change the values. Next, we select the signal. You click add, you come here to the name, and you have to make sure that the signal that you created is being showed in here. The way I know this signal is the signal I created is in here is because all the signals from the system say signals off, and they say the indicator, oscillator, etc. In my case, I put on, so you can if we go to the text, we're gonna see that this is the text that we set up for the description of the signal, and it was two lines long. So we select it, and then we can select the symbol and time frame. I recommend using current, and here we can change some default values just in case we might want to do that, right? If we don't want to change any default value, we let them the way it is. You can also double click, it turns gray, and it means that it's going to be a constant. You can change it inside the code. I recommend using it as a variable. You hit OK, and then you have your signal. You might want to add more signals. Let's say you want to add oscillator as well. But the thing is that if we do this, then we might want to specify a weight different than 1. Why? Because weight 1, it's the highest weight you can have. Weight goes from 0 to 1, and significance, which is the way of the pattern, goes from 0 to 100. In this case, this is the way of the signal, and if you're going to have more than one signal, you might want to have, let's say, 0.6, and then for this one you might want to have a weight of 0.3, for example, right? So this way we have two different signals. We hypothetically believe that oscillator has the highest weight, so it's gonna be considered more than the sample signal. Then we click next. We can specify if we want trailing stop or not. For now we're gonna say no. Then we click next. Then we can specify the percentage in here and the lots. We're gonna leave them the way they come by default. I'm gonna finish. Click finish, and the expert advisor gets generated. And as you can see, there are two signals being added to the expert advisor in here, right? So as a filter, it's gonna add a filter, and it's gonna be our second signal.
Okay, so again, the presenters are Jonathan Jimenez and Victor Bosa. These are our emails as shown. And the product owner / mentor for this project is Dr. Masood Sajadi, and his contact information can be seen here. Thank you.